Thomas University Digital Journalism and New Media present.
Welcome to this week's Basement Files. I'm your host, Johnny James. Here are our top stories. We'll take a look at concerns around marijuana legalization in Canada. Then we find out why local businesses are struggling downtown. And UMB's Memorial Hall receives a makeover with some new stained glass. With stores ready to open, recreational marijuana will become legalized in Canada this week. However, some experts are concerned that the drug may be misused. Rachel Moros has the story.
Cannabis is set to be legalised around the country on Wednesday, with 9 stores in New Brunswick ready to open. The legalisation of recreational marijuana use is said to make weed safer and more controlled, as it can be more closely monitored for its quality.
We are ready, so we have our team hired across the province. We completed our training last week for 330 people who have now been hired and trained, which works out to about 200 full-time jobs. And our stores are ready to go. We have 20 stores on track to open here on October the 17th, so we feel we're as ready as we can be at this stage of the game.
Harriman emphasised the importance of legal and safe cannabis being available to young people.
For a small percentage of younger users, under the age of 25, there is a risk of creating long-term mental health issues. So that's the part that probably gives us the biggest piece of indigestion. The counter side of that is by the model we're choosing, by legalizing and regulating it, hopefully we can get more and more cannabis away from youth.
A letter was sent out earlier this month by the government that allowed for households to read about how to use cannabis correctly and the dangers of its use. 11 Cannabis NB stores will open in New Brunswick on Wednesday, and products will be available in stores and online. Rachel Moros, reporting for STU Journalism.
Halloween is the next major event on the calendar, including the pagan holiday Samhain. The witches are preparing for the upcoming ritual. Garrett Moore reports.
The leaves are changing colors and the pumpkins are coming out, a sure sign that Halloween is on its spooky way. But the Greater Fredericton area witches are preparing for another celebration. Samhain. It's a sort of harvest close-like festival, where the witches ask for good fortune in the coming winter, something that the witches sometimes like to have fun with.
When I lived in Vancouver, there'd be somewhere between 200 to 400 people at the Samhain ritual, and people would bring their babies, and there'd always be a hush just before the ritual started. Mm-hmm. And babies being babies, the baby will cry when there's a hush. So yeah, we would, because there'd always be a lot of new people, and we would stage whisper, "That must be this year's sacrifice," and
the rituals themselves can trace their roots back to ancient times, places like Wales, Ireland, Scotland, and Britain. Samhain itself comes from the Gaelic culture and represents the end of the harvest. These rituals come from different traditions or sects of witchcrafts, similar to different sects of Christianity.
It's a tradition. There's a lot of pagan witch traditions, just like there's a lot of different Christian denominations.
Witchcraft often conjures images of bonfires and strange sacrifices, though much of it is taking cues from nature and reading old mythology, fairy tales, and legends. Even popular tarot card readings are considered to be a part of witchcraft.
Reclaiming works a lot by taking
fairy stories,
old myths and fairy tales, and weaving them into magical workings, because of the belief that there is truth in all of these. All of the old fairy tales were a way to
teach.
Yeah, almost like a code to pass along old knowledge.
So as you can see behind me, the leaves are changing colors, marking the changing of the seasons, where the Greater Fredericton area witches will be practicing their own Samhain festival this next weekend, the 27th and 28th. This is Garrett Moore reporting for St. Thomas Journalism.
Reed's Newsstand, Second Spin Records, and Aitken's Pewter, all businesses that have closed in downtown Fredericton this year. Frederick Camerano has the story.
After nearly 50 years in business, Aitken's Pewter left downtown this summer and closed its workshop in the industrial park. The business moved its store and its workshop into a single building on McLeod Avenue. Owner and founder Martin Aitkins says there are many pros to moving outside of downtown.
The ease at which you can buy things online today and have them delivered to your house, it's easier to do that than it is to maybe fight with traffic in the downtown area, to deal with parking, to deal with snow, ice.
But Aitken's Pewter isn't the only business that struggled with downtown. Many others did too, including Owl's Nest Bookstore, which closed its doors in September.
It's a nice area. It's pretty. Downtown is very, very pretty. There's not a whole lot to do though. There's no parking. No one really wants to come down here because the drivers are terrible.
Croft says this year's flood made it even more difficult for customers to come to the messy used bookstore. The 2-decade-old store moved all its remaining books to Croft's parents' house.
Okay, so it moved from a building that is 2 stories high and almost a half a block long to a 28 by 36 home pretty much in boxes stacked literally from the floor to the ceiling.
Croft's parents look to sell these books online, but downtown Fredericton, which promotes businesses in this area, says the city center isn't dying. New businesses will open and Radical Edge will expand into Owl's Nest building. This is Frédéric Camerano reporting for Stu Journalism.
Not always bleak on the business front, with a new gym opening in Fredericton. Staying in shape takes a lot of commitment, and who better to be your fitness guru than an ex-baseball star? Daniel Darrow Singer reports.
Building on a successful career is not an easy feat, not when you are New Brunswick's 2018 Baseball Hall of Fame inductee. For Derek Wilson, a former senior baseball league player, opening a gym to cater for the fitness needs of his clients is his way of giving back to a society that supported him throughout his career.
Physical fitness and training for sports is something that I've done my whole life, and that's something that's given me a reputation that people are seeking me out to train them for basketball or baseball.
One of his clients is former 13-time World Arm Wrestling Champion Joyce King, who is now training to be a bodybuilder.
I'm here at Full Body Fitness, training with my full-time trainer Derek Wilson to get ready for my next year's up-and-coming bodybuilding championship. I'm going to be doing physique and figure.
Derek has always been motivated to help everyone.
Every individual's got a different story, a different background, and I'm just trying to help get them on track and help their quality of life.
One such person who has benefited a lot is bus driver Todd English.
I've lost 130 pounds in the last 3 years, so this has been about 80% of my health journey.
From bodybuilding to just trying to stay healthy, keeping fit is good business. This is Daniel Darrow Singer reporting for St. Thomas University.
You usually don't hear about poetry in a bar, but that may be changing. People who enjoy listening to poetry in different languages gathered at UMB's grad house recently. Bruna Porta has the story.
A gathering for poetry lovers took place at the grad house at UNB. Open to the public, the meeting was created by Irish language professor Dan Farrow.
The aim for tonight was to try and get people to come and speak in their language. Was that English? Was it one of the indigenous Canadian languages? Spanish, French, which I didn't get any French, and I wanted to share some of my language with the people of Frederick.
People of all ages and cultures gathered at the bar, allowing everyone to share poems in a variety of idioms, such as English, Irish, Spanish, and Arabic. Diana Chavez was one of the few people who stood up and read both a poem she likes and one she wrote herself.
Te quiero solo a ti, en todo sentido de la palabra. Mi alma anhela conocer tu vulnerabilidad, tus miedos y secretos.
So this is the first time I've seen that they organize something like this. I thought it was very powerful, very enriching, if that's the word. I love the fact that even if I didn't know some of the languages, I could feel the vulnerability that the poet was, trying to portray.
Of lost public funding.
The main goal of the night was for people to share feelings in different languages and still feel like the others understood their message without necessarily understanding their actual words.
I'm also a huge poetry fan, so I think if through poetry we can achieve such a language and culture exchange, why not do it, all in the same event.
The occasion happened at the end of a September night, and both Farrow and Chavez hoped there would be more events like this in the upcoming months. For St. Thomas Journalism, I'm Bruna Porto.
The nominees for this year's Music New Brunswick Awards were announced, with Fredericton artists leading the way. The most notable being the Hypochondriacs, with 8 total nominations. Prog rock band Joyful Noise and their debut album Coco Loco are one of 3 Fredericton nominees for Album of the Year. They are joined by the Olympic Symphonium, who are up for 3 categories including SOCAN Song of the Year for their track Choral Voices. Other acknowledgements go to Stephen Lewis and Eva George, who are both up for Educator of the Year for their dedication to teaching music to the city's youth, while the Charlotte Street Arts Center and the Capitol Complex are up for Venue of the Year. The winners will be announced during this year's Festival 506, which takes place from October 25th to 28th in Caracat, New Brunswick. For the full list of nominees, go to musicnb.org. One of the city's oldest stages, the Playhouse, has been a home for everything from theater to live music. But now it's preparing to undergo a serious overhaul. Alex Descalou reports.
The Fredericton Playhouse has been a part of the community since 1964. It was a gift from Lord and Lady Beaverbrook to the people of New Brunswick. Tim Yerxa has been the executive director of the Fredericton Playhouse Incorporation since 2000.
This building that we're in is definitely living on borrowed time. We have a plan to build a new facility to replace it. It's a big project. I understand it's an expensive project, but a facility like this is important to the community. It's part of what makes living in Fredericton great.
The main stage of the Playhouse has been used for hundreds of events, but in the past few years, the building has had a few problems. Failures such as plumbing, roof leaks, heating and ventilations are going on behind the scenes, and many New Brunswickers do not see it. Yerxa also said that replacing heavy equipment in the basement, the city would have to shut down Queen Street and dig under the building to make any big changes.
This will cost $33 million in construction. The building is getting older, and the longer they wait, they will be facing more and more problems. This is Alex Descalou reporting for St. Thomas Journalism.
Almost 100 years ago, stained glass windows were installed in Memorial Hall on UNB's campus. Over time, the condition of the windows has deteriorated, and 2 years ago, it was decided that they needed to be restored. A project that is now completed. Jerry Faye Flatt has the story.
People gathered to see the great reveal of the long-awaited stained glass window restoration that happened in the Gothic Revival Auditorium on October 11th. Artist-in-residence Ned Bowes worked on restoring these windows for 2 years. It took over 2,000 hours of meticulous work.
Basically, if you don't have a love for what you're doing, then you might as well not do it.
The windows are dedicated to members of the university community. They feature family crests, symbols, and images. Bowes says there's a message in every window, but that everyone interprets them differently. They were covered up for a long time, so this reveal was exciting for people like Beth Theroux.
As a student, I came here for plays and Red and Black. I was in Red and Black. The curtains were always closed. We had no idea the windows were here, the stained glass. No idea.
The hardest window for Bowes to restore was the middle one, the Ashburnham window on the west wall. It's dedicated to the Earl of Ashburnham and shows Shakespeare and Queen Elizabeth I. When Bowes started to restore this one, there were around 40 pieces of glass that weren't visible because they were covered with lead and cement. It took 200 hours alone to get the cement off. He took the window out and started putting it together piece by piece.
And then, of course, after all is said and done, the window that you take out has to fit back into the same opening. And if it doesn't work, then something drastic has to happen.
Now, the light is shining through all of Bowes' hard work. It took him a lot of concentration and dedication to complete this task, and he's proud that the restoration was able to be done right here in New Brunswick.
It's a good place to start, right here, having our own homegrown artisans that can do this work.
And finally, after years of hard work, this completed restoration can be seen anytime at Memorial Hall. For Stu Journalism, I'm Jerry Faye Flatt.
That's all for this week. If you missed our newscast, you can always find it on our website. For St. Thomas Journalism, I'm Johnny James. We'll see you next time.